Hello again. So, decided to turn my one day at the movie into a double feature, and decided to go a little bit in the opposite direction when it comes to spy films. Decided to go with something bizarre. So, now here's the thing. I had not intended to see this movie, and I know I say that a lot, but I really mean it in the terms of this one for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's been out for a while, so there's no real need for me to review it. You've probably already seen it, or if you haven't, there's probably a good reason. Number two, I am not a fan of the Mission Impossible movies as a general rule. I find them, I've always referred to them as the poor man's James Bond films. I don't get the appeal of them. And thirdly, I am not a fan of Tom Cruise. I don't think the man is a good actor. I think, I just don't think he's good. And he annoys me more than he entertains me. And let me be clear about this. When I say that, I'm not talking about his personal life or his personal beliefs. I don't really give a shit about that. I mean, I have my opinions, of course, but I really don't care what he chooses to believe. I'm talking about him as a movie star actor. I have never been a fan. So that's two big strikes against it already. So I didn't feel like I should go see this, and because it already was not going to appeal to me. Kind of in the same reason I don't go see and review the Pixar movies, because they're already kind of not my thing. But I went to this one because I wanted to do something a little different, and my friend Lindley, who you might remember from some of our reviews, she said she really enjoyed it. So I thought, what the hell, let's go do something a little wacky. Let's give something a chance. So, what's the verdict? I didn't hate it. I did not hate it. It kind of was what the other ones were to me, the ones I've seen. I haven't seen all of them. I don't even know which number this is, since they stopped numbering them and just started giving them subtitles, which all sound the same. But it wasn't a bad movie. It wasn't terrible by any means. It was thoroughly watchable. It was what it was meant to be, a popcorn action film, and in that it did its job pretty well. So I say that I sound a little grudgingly, like I'm giving it and that's kind of true. You always hate kind of admitting when something you don't like or someone you don't like does something well, but you've got to give the devil their due. So let's start with what I liked about it. Okay, so of course the thing everybody talks about lately with these Mission Impossible movies is just the outrageous stunts, most supposedly all done by Cruise himself and all done practically, and I don't know if that's true for a fact, but it looks like it is. So in that case, I gotta give him and the production crew a lot of credit for taking that challenge on and doing it. And the stunts and the action look pretty damn good. There's a lot of really cool stuff. They do a lot of really entertaining things with it. Especially when you consider how many action movies there have been and how many different chase scenes there have been in the world. How do you make yours stand out? Well, they did a pretty good job of it. So the director had a real good eye for, tracking the action. It's one of those rare films where in the action scenes, you can actually see all the action play out. Your eye can track everything. And they don't do that as much as they used to, because they're trying to get in close quarters, make it seem real, and I think also trying to hide cuts. So they do a lot of really cool things with the action. So much props to them for that. Also, and I kind of feel sacrilegious saying this. This makes me feel a little dirty, so I'll probably have to bathe after saying this. But I kind of think that the most recent James Bond movies should take a page out of the Mission Impossible's book. There, I said it, and I feel filthy saying it. Let me explain. I am a huge Bond fan. I love Bond movies. All right, love them, love them, love them. And I really enjoyed Daniel Craig as James Bond. I really enjoyed Casino Royale and Skyfall. I thought Quantum of Solace was decent, and Spectre was just boring. But here's the thing about them. Overall, I like Daniel Craig's Bond movies. But the thing about them is they've been taking too much of a page out of the Bourne movies, books. They're all trying to be serious and dour and, bringing Bond into the modern era and all that. And that's fine and dandy. It was a nice change of pace and a breath of fresh air when they did Casino Royale. But lately, this is part of the problem with Spectre, they've just gotten boring as fuck. And I gotta say, with this movie, when the action was going on, I wasn't bored necessarily. The action was exactly what old Bond movies used to be. Part of the spectacle of old Bond movies is all the stunts they did and that they had to do practically. I mean, watch, even recently, watch Casino Royale and that whole parkour chase scene at the beginning. That's all done practically, and it's awesome. And I think the Bond movies could really benefit from looking at these films and going, they're a little lighter, they're a little bit more fun, they're not taking themselves so damn seriously, and we can now, maybe lighten up a little bit. So I really believe that James Bond could take a page out of the Mission Impossible book. So those are the upsides. So what are the downs? The downsides are everything that you would kind of expect. Let's run through them here. I'm not going to worry so much about spoilers for this one because, again, it's been out for a while, so I assume you've seen it. But let's just get into it. First of all, it still has the Mission Impossible problem of its plot being so goddamn convoluted. You can't figure out who's working for who, who's betraying who, what's going on. It's just all over the fucking place. And I was kind of surprised that it was really dependent on you having seen the other Mission Impossible movies. I thought a lot of these were very standalone. But I guess we don't do a lot of standalone movies anymore. Everything's got to be part of a bigger universe, and everything has to tell a linked together story. Now, it's not to say that I couldn't follow it or couldn't understand the character relationships based on what was going on. I could, but it just, it made things, I don't know. I didn't feel like I was watching a movie. I felt like I was watching part 3 of a larger whole or something. But that's my fault for not having seen the films. When you get to this high up in the sequels, you're probably assuming the people have seen the previous movies. But still, the plot was very convoluted. I mentioned a second ago that the action scenes were pretty good, but almost all of them went on too long. You can only kind of hold my attention or anyone's attention with big spectacle and big fights and all that and whatnot for so long before you're like, okay, we got to move on to the next thing. And they really held on to these stunts and everything for a lot longer than I think they needed to, especially at the end when it became like Little Disaster on the Prairie. Everything happened and it just kept happening and things just kept getting more and more ridiculous, to the point where every time a new thing would happen. All right, so Tom Cruise is chasing Harry Cable in the helicopters. Through things they crash. They go down and they both get stuck in like a wedge of a mountain. Tom Cruise's helicopter comes down and crashes into Harry Cable's and they slam into each other. And then both of them land and they roll off and the helicopter falls off the mountain. But the hook catches on the thing and the helicopter stops. It's one thing after another, and by the fourth or fifth thing, the audience was laughing. They weren't being held in tension, they were laughing at it. And I heard a couple people going, oh, come on. Just kind of wanting it to wrap up. So they held on to it for a little too long. And I also got to say, and maybe this again is my fault for not maybe if I'd seen the other Mission Impossibles, this critique wouldn't be a thing. But it is a thing for me. While the action scenes were great and everything that was going on was wonderful, it had no weight to it because I did not give a shit about any of the characters. None of them. They were the most flat, boring, two-dimensional characters you could ever ask for. And that's the thing about this movie, is it's trying so hard to convince you it's complicated and that its story is so interwoven. But folks, if you couldn't tell Henry Cavill was going to end up being the bad guy from like the trailer, okay, first of all, you have not seen enough movies, and you definitely need to watch some, because I mean the performances in this were so wooden and terrible. Henry Cavill, I don't know about him as a person. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but God, he is the most stiff person. And Tom Cruise, I'm trying to leave my personal distaste for the man's performance and his acting style out of this and say he is the wrong person for this franchise. Now, clearly other people disagree with me, since they've made a dozen of these, and they'll make more, I'm sure of it. But he is not intimidating. He is not a badass. And every time he tries to sound intimidating or badass, he comes out sounding silly. Every time he tries to make a mean face, he looks like, once again, he looks like Justin Bieber making a mean face. Ooh! And that's, it doesn't work. It's comical. So that's a problem. Yes, this is also the film, apparently, that Henry Cavill couldn't shave his mustache for when they had to do reshoots for Justice League. And what's funny is that in the first bit of the film, his facial hair like fluctuates. He's always got the thick mustache, but in some scenes he's got just the mustache and a little bit of beard. Then he's got a lot of beard, and then he has very kind of patches of beard. So his facial hair fluctuates throughout the early parts of the film until they finally got the continuity guy right. Yeah, there's something else I wanted to talk about it. Now I'm blanking. Harry Cable's facial hair. But yeah, if you could not guess, even if you couldn't guess from the trailers, if you couldn't guess that the new guy who comes in and is in a dick measuring contest with Tom Cruise right from the outs, you couldn't guess he was going to be the bad guy, then I mean, come on. Oh yeah, here's the other thing, and again, this is something this is one of the reasons I don't like about Tom Cruise, is because he's that level of movie star now, and he's a producer on a lot of his films, so his films become literal love letters to himself. Okay? You know a better subtitle for this film than Fallout? Overcompensation would have been the better one. Because not only do they have to do all these stunts and show you how awesome Tom Cruise is, notice that a lot of the supporting cast don't get that, that kind of a rub. They're the goofy sidekicks who he always has to save. Even the girl who's supposed to be a kick-ass, MI6 agent, of course she gets captured and tied up and all that. And she gets a little bit of a fight scene, but they're not as awesome as Tom Cruise running all over the place. Okay, that's fine and dandy. I don't mind that. But this film suffers from what I call Mitch Buchanan syndrome. And for those of you who don't remember the original Baywatch, first of all, shame on you. But David Hasselhoff, who played Mitch Buchanan on Baywatch, was a producer on the show. And as such, the entire show began to become a giant David Hasselhoff ego stroke. Mitch would always beat the young 20-year-old in Ironman competitions. He was a Navy SEAL, a trained ballroom dancer, a champion kickboxer. There was nothing bad about Mitch. And that's what this movie is it's not only him, Tom Cruise showing off how great he is at running, jumping, climbing trees, but then Tom Cruise has to get all self-deprecating. Oh, I'm sorry, this is all my fault. And all the characters have to give big speeches about, no, no, Tom Cruise, I'm here because of you. You inspired me. You did this and you did that. It's because of you, because you're such a great guy. You know, James Bond never needs any of these fucking pep talks. No. But no, we've got to tell Ethan Hunt how fucking awesome he is at every given turn. Lord forbid he doubt himself. And here's what gets me. Here's one of the things that I got maddest about with this movie. Okay. So in the very beginning, Tom Cruise and his buddy, Simon Pegg and Ving Rhames, are on a mission to get some stolen uranium back. And things go sideways, and the bad guys end up with the uranium. And basically everything in the movie that happens is because Tom Cruise chose to save Ving Rhames' life as opposed to stopping the guys getting the uranium. Now, here's the problem with that. This situation that they were in the beginning of the film was a simple garage shootout. And somehow the bad guys got a hold of Ving Rhames, and I don't know Ving Rhames' character in these, but Ving Rhames is a big fucking guy. And the guy holding a gun on him, you can see it, they're doing a shadow, is a good head shorter than him. You're telling me Ving Rhames couldn't have kicked his ass? You're telling me that they could not have found a way out of that situation with the uranium, especially when the whole rest of the movie is showing how good Tom Cruise is at getting out of every tight situation by running, jumping, climbing trees. But this simple garage shootout with a midget holding a gun on giant Ving Rhames, no, that Tom Cruise couldn't figure a way out of. There was no way out of that. Even if it was just as simple as holding on to the fucking case. You know? And I'm sorry, I know that these films, I know all spy movies, you can't go into them and go, well, the plot, was holy. Because, they're supposed to be to get goofy. It's okay. But I'm sorry, when all of the movie is him showing how awesome he is at getting out of the tightest scrapes and improvising and coming up with all of this stuff, but he couldn't get out of that, yeah, that is stupid. So, I'm ragging on this movie a lot. And again, I'm not a fan of the Mission Impossible series or Tom Cruise. So maybe I'm being a little extra venomous here. But again, I will say, it was not a bad movie. It was highly watchable. It was what it was intended to be, a good summer action popcorn flick. That I guess since I haven't seen the others, I can't say if the formula's gotten tired or not. But I do think, I'll be honest first and again say, I think the Bond films can learn a little something from these again. But I will also say, I think it's time for a reboot, folks. If you're not going to shut this franchise down, clearly, I think it's time to reboot it. I think it's time to get another actor in there and maybe try again. But they probably won't, because Tom Cruise is the producer. He's got a stranglehold on this franchise. He's going to do these until he's in his 80s and dies doing one of these damn stunts. So final grade for this one. Personal bias. I'm a critic. We're all critics, really. We all have our personal bias. I gotta give this one a C+. I know others have said it's better, and maybe they're bigger fans of the franchise or the actor than I am. That's fine, but I gotta go C+ for this one. It wasn't bad, and the action was good, but all the things I don't like about the Mission Impossible movies and don't like about the star were still there, and just made the film dull in spots. So I gotta go C+ on this one. Alright, well, 2 movies in one day, and I'm maybe doing another one tomorrow. I don't know. It's my last day off before I gotta go back to work. We'll see what happens. But I hope you've been enjoying your Labor Day weekend as much as I've been enjoying mine. And until next time, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.